So, hello everyone. Agency Reporter, as you all know, has been hosting a special section called In Conversation With, where we interview stalwarts from the A&M media and PR industry. We have two amazing guests with us today, Valerie Pinto, CEO of Weber Shandwick, and Deepak Jolly, founder of Consortia Advisory. Nice to have you with us today, Valerie and Deepak.
Nice. Thanks for inviting us on the forum.
Pleasure to be here, Rahul.
So in next 30 minutes, we'll try and understand from both of our guests the role of PR and communications industry in shaping up Atmanirbhar Bharat. So when we say Atmanirbhar Bharat throughout our discussion, for our guests, let's quickly understand what a self-reliant India means. So Bharat is Atmanirbhar when businesses, first of all, are able to create their own wealth. Secondly, when they manufacture products within country by sourcing raw materials from within the country itself. And thirdly, when businesses are able to build their own supply chain, which will help them sell globally. So Deepak, starting with you first, do you think India has got everything it needs to become self-reliant?
The answer is a yes and no. Yes, we have the people, the talent. We have some of the raw materials. We don't have the entire raw material which is required for especially look at energy. Our energy, 90% energy requirements are from outside. So how do we supplement that? We have tried our best to go and, the ONGC has gone and explored, private sector has come and explored. But the energy needs are far, far more than what the India energy needs are there. And that we will have to be, we will always have to go and import. Again, you must understand in economics, the question of demand and supply is, how you are able to produce at the right price a product which can be sold at the right channels. And again, I think the most important point is value for money. Whatever you do, you have to put value for money. And I remember in Coke, I've worked in multinationals companies through and through my career. So, I'm the last person to say that no, we should have an Indian cola or we should have an Indian soap, etc. The world doesn't, work like that. The world, we are building a global village. In a global village, anybody who has the right skill, the right temperament, the right raw materials, and the right value add will be able to produce that product, and even the shipping cost of that to reach the customer in overseas, find the value given to that customer much, much cheaper than what that country can able to be produced. So while I agree that today Atmanirbhar is a good call to give, because there is going to be a lot of dependency of world post-COVID on many of the things. So of course it's a great clarion call, but is it possible? The answer is yes and a no, as I mentioned to you. And I will come to the genesis of Atmanirbhar. 1906, India started the Swadeshi movement. And Swadeshi movement said, we will produce locally. And so you started producing cloth, khadi, many of the other things which were a part of that movement. And then India got independence in 1947. We started building industry as public sector, which was like the temples of steel, you name it, atomic energy, etc., etc. The way world has evolved is that the growth has been the critical plank of our existence. If there is growth, we all are there. If there is no growth, believe me, jobs are not there, we will go back to the pre-91 era. So, how do you get growth? How has the world behaved in the past? The world has behaved in the past for last 1,000 years through trade. How did East India Company come to India in 1491? What was the China Silk Route? All that has been a part and parcel of trade. You know, you go to Istanbul and there is a Grand Bazaar, and that's the 500-year-old market. And people used to go and trade spices from India. So in that Silk Route, they would carry the spices from India, and in the Silk Route, they would go to Istanbul, sell those spices to the world. So what I'm saying is that, at this given interdependent world, how will Atmanirbhar or the call in US of again the similar clarion call, how will that work? It's yet to be seen. So that's my thought.
Sure. Deepak, so we understand you're not able to take that call as of now. So Valerie, let's say Deepak is wrong, and in about a year, India has become Atmanirbhar. This will have its own repercussions of a global scale, obviously. So, but the first step to do anything is to know how should this be communicated to the world. You tell us.
So I think it doesn't help India in any way to actually talk about us being, very inward looking. I think it's been misunderstood in when you say Atmanirbhar. If you actually go on to seeing how the country has been reacting or the government has been actually communicating that across the world, it's not that we are going to ban investments from other parts of the world, because we cannot function. Us, India and Latin America, can only grow and progress if we have investments coming in from UK, US, and even China, because they're the only ones who have the money at the moment. So from that point of view, the global communication is about come and manufacture in India, come and make in India, because there is a huge population which is a buying the population of India from a youth standpoint allows for the right kind of labor to help you build your products and your quality of products in the country, and not just build it, but there's enough and more demand that can be generated in the same country itself given our population. And I think that's the whole objective of being more making in India, whether it's a global brand or whether it's an Indian brand or whether it's a Chinese brand or whatever it may be. China, of course, now is a bad word, but I'm just saying that it's any of these countries would like to invest in India, make in India for India as well as you can share it in the rest of the world, because the population and the opportunity in India is that much higher. So if you see what states like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Andhra and Maharashtra are doing, is actually crafting out new reforms or new opportunities to actually get in companies from Japan and Korea, etc., to set up their global supply chains in each of their in each of their states, and offering SOPs and offering a lot more waivers to actually have those investments come in, because India, more than anyone, knows that we cannot really progress if we don't have that international money coming in. Labor will continue to be, of course, we have large numbers, but quality of talent with the right skills will continue to be our biggest hindrance. But like as we've been seeing various conversations on television, etc., people are talking about how do you quickly ramp up, upskill. Government has also launched champions. They've taking various initiatives to actually raise the level of quality of work that, or the talent that people have within the country. So it's a start of a great move, and the work that we do in this direction has to be rightly communicated in other parts of the world for them to know the opportunity that lies in India. But the one big area that they will all want to know about is policy consistency, no flip-flops, and the longevity of a lot of the reforms that we are actually bringing into place at this point in time. So I think the world is looking at India very differently, given our relationships in the recent and our ability to react to this pandemic in a very different way. Our ability to be more empathetic towards by sharing like hydroclox. I can't pronounce that medication, but sharing it at times when everyone in the world needs it, being more um, being able to keep such a large economy under lockdown and keep them controlled, even though we are a democracy, has been a lot of lessons that the world will learn from us. Now we're just waiting to see how the pandemic actually pans out in the country. But from where we are looking at it at this point in time, I think it was well managed.
Yeah, so I agree, Valerie. A lot of it is on government, and lot of it is on us. So Deepak, tell me, isn't every country trying to become Atmanirbhar in a sense? We all are witnessing economies at their all-time lows. And if that is the case, will the role of PR become more aggressive in order to help create a perception of better and reliable, as Valerie pointed out? So,
No, so let me tell you, I'm a great proponent of uh, being self-reliant. That's what Atmanirbhar is. But I started the practical proposition which exists because, uh, you know, there is something which you can do and something in this interdependent world you can't do. Now, let me give you as a communicator what has been my role. And I'll start giving you a role of when Pepsi came to India way back in 1989-90. It was under so much of cloud, thousands of questions in the parliament on so much of money will outflow from India, so much of jobs will not be created. So many issues were brought out to the fore. Now look back at what PepsiCo has done to India. And that was my campaign in 95 when I joined. The biggest campaign was what value addition PepsiCo did for Indians. It was all about employment. You know, today you have about 10,000, 12,000 people or more working in the PepsiCo system, and the indirect is so many more. You know, I mean, look at that part. Look at so that's just the employment part. Look at the net foreign exchange earning, which most of the proponents come and the Swadeshi proponents come and say, oh, you know, balance of payment issue if a multinational comes and, you know, a lot of foreign exchange will go away. So what has happened? It is products made in India, made for India, made by Indians, sold in India. And what has happened is you've got some great technology, it's a professional company, and you know, people all know about it, that the global CEO of that company was Indian, who was again born in India. So, you know, so that to me, that is an example for a communicator of make in India, born in India, made for India, made by India. And that is something which I recently helped a Chinese company to communicate that better. And, you know, my client was a client which is into manufacturing of surveillance cameras. The fact is that 100% of the cameras a few years back were all imported from China. But this company called Prama Hikvision actually started producing those cameras in India in a facility just a little away from Bombay and Vasai. They make 1 million cameras in India. So when I told this to some of my friends in Niti Aayog, and they said, oh, wait a minute, no. I don't think this is possible. So I said, sir, come and go and visit the place and see the pride of India, where this gentleman, the Indian partner, will show you with pride that what Prama Hikvision has done is to produce almost 1 billion cameras in India, for Indians, and has had a beautiful manufacturing base here. Now that is an example which I say with a lot of pride that is Make in India. But so 60% of the components are now being made in India. And this has happened in a transition in last 2 years. So as I say, for us communicators, the fact is, what is the value addition an Indian entrepreneur does with a foreign multinational, and how he is able to service the Indian market. That is a great story for communicators to tell about how Make in India, Made for India, and Atmanirbhar will work for India. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Deepak. Absolutely makes sense. And Valerie, you come from a global agency. Tell us, how are things shaping up in other countries? Will PR and communications become more value driven, ROI oriented, sales linked?
I think as a global agency, the India has definitely become a very important discussion point with the pressures on from China at the moment. So there have been talks to actually create a tunnel, of advisory between US and India, Korea and India, Japan and India, and even China and India, because there are different kinds of issues that one needs to address as far as China is concerned. So there's a lot of discussion. They're all looking at more advisory. So we've actually launched our new advisory function much before COVID, but that's really picked up in a big way. Being able to actually leverage data and analytics to actually inform a strategy discussion from a CXO standpoint, business continuity standpoint, and be able to drive through, all this conversation that we are hearing across the world. So I think it's a very interesting time. It's a time where we can pivot or perish. But we definitely are seeing newer versions um, of what the industry will demand out of us. We are seeing new plans. We are seeing new asks. We are seeing definitely a different way of operation as we go beyond COVID.
Right. And Valerie, I would like you to continue, because next question is for both of you guys. But you're still, because you're in a flow, just let me know, will the formation of Atmanirbhar Bharat pave way for many new PR agencies to crop up in India? I mean, there will be a lot of homegrown brands with their unique communication needs, right?
See,
So,
I think there is an opportunity for everybody to exist in a large country like India, where every state speaks a different language. Every 100 kilometers you have a different language, and communicating, hyper local communication will get very relevant. Talking to small consumers, to large consumers, to small cities, to large cities, small customers, small clients to large clients. I mean, the opportunity is immense, and if it means having local agencies who know and understand the local pulse, and therefore building a sort of coalition to actually navigate all the challenges that India as a country throws back at us, why not? Most definitely. But a lot of the Atmanirbhar is about building local brands that can even go global. And that's really where the opportunity for large agencies such as us will continue to keep, continue to gain momentum. And working through these strategies, a lot of like say for example, brands like Oyo are now global brands. Baiju's will soon be a global brand. You've talked, CureFit is now launching in the US and in China and all the other places. And so you have these brands which are now have the possibility, the opportunity, and the breadth to actually go global with their technology prowess, and most of them are brands backed by technology. So I think that's our edge. From an India standpoint, we should build on it and leverage agencies who can actually take you to the rest of the world.
Deepak?
Yeah, no, I've been a very, very strong proponent of India and Indianness. And why I say this is because every sixth person in the world is an Indian. So you have to remember that, there are almost more than 60 million people, Indians, who don't live in India, who live outside India, or more. I think if I look at the number, that number is just about 30 million in US and Canada. So the question for us today is that do we want the pride of Indianness, or we want 100% production in India? I would say it's a mix of both. What do we make well? We make medicines, pharma, auto components, technology, not hardware, software. We make very good software. So I have a client, Mindtree, and Mindtree, 90% business is in US. So, there's so much pride about that business, which is dependent on the US economy. Now, look at some of the interesting, as Valerie just pointed out, about the startups. I started this company as a startup in India, and I even registered it as a MSME way back in 2017. And again, the whole point was that today PR is not about media relations. Forget it. The time is gone that, you thought about PR, oh, media. No. It's about stakeholder relationship. It is about NGO relationship. It's about government, local government, DM. It's a holistic way of looking at external stakeholders, how they look at you, and how you need to communicate each one differently, which is the new age PR. And if we want to exist in this world as PR, there is a lot of room for people who can do all this 360-degree together. So you are able to sell your story better. Now, how did I, recently shopping centers, they were asked to all shut down, and all the shopping was shut. And there was a perception that all the disease which will happen when the economy opens will be only through shopping centers, because the air conditioning is not right, and that is what spreads some kind of a problem, and this virus goes even viral further because of that. So we made a film, we created an SOP document, we created an interaction with almost close to 100 government officers. We actually went to many task forces to represent our case, and we created a lot of TV debates. This is something so important, and all the mall owners were Indians. All the mall owners were Indians. None of them is a foreign model. So it's all about creating value. And if the new age PR agency will create value for the customer, there's a room for a lot of them to come up. And I can say I'm a very, very strong believer that if you are able to communicate your strategy, your intent, your compassion for employees, for customers, for vendors, for the government, if we can do it in a very, very succinct manner, that is something which will really find a lot of space and a lot of people to believe that you can do it. And I truly believe this is the time the PR has to rise and say, we are coming out of COVID, we need to tell the brand story better. We need to tell the corporate story better. We need to tell the compassion story better. And I'm sure Atmanirbhar is, again, as I said, can be one of the ways to tell a story. But there are many, many other ways to tell your story as the chief storytellers of the companies. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Deepak. That was a really good articulation. And now we are ending this discussion with one last question. And Deepak and Valerie, it's for both of you. Help us understand the pressure brands are facing and what could be the formula of an evolved communication that they need to adapt during this new normal. Deepak, you go first.
Sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So, help us understand the pressure brands are facing and what could be the formula of an evolved communication that they need to adapt during this new normal.
Oh, the brands, you see, what has happened is the biggest issue which the brands have had in the pandemic is that most of the marketing guys said, as the markets are closed, there is not going to be brands which will be sold. So they went off the air in the paid communication. And what has happened is that there is a complete lull. And if you're not using that brand as an FMCG brand, believe me, it became completely, from your daily life, that brand is now absent. And if people get used to that brand not being there, believe me, people can go without it for many, many years. So the biggest issue, and I call a couple of my friends almost on a weekly basis. So I was speaking to R.S. Sodhi, who's a very old friend of mine and the CEO of Amul. And I said, Sodhi Sahab, I have to give you full marks of telling the Amul story the right way. What did he do? The biggest show on the planet, which was happening on one single Doordarshan, Ramayana and Mahabharata, he sponsored it with ads which were as old as 30 years. It reminded of that period of time. One of my friends, he told me while he was taking a morning walk, he said, Deepak, I take a bath at 7 o'clock in the morning, and without a bath, the whole family doesn't watch Ramayana. So imagine the whole family are glued. Work from home is happening. Ramayana comes at 9 in the morning. People have taken a bath. They don't have any other TV channels to flip with that, and with no other software. The belief in God is much more at home because the temples are not open. And here is something which is the audience is glued, and which is the brand which is advertising, which is the brand which can be seen, is Amul. So brands miss that opportunity. And I've been telling this, and I wrote to many of my friends, including Britannia. I wrote to my friends across my old companies, Levers, etc. And they all realized that this is the time when the brand should have communicated the most. Having said that, I think brand will find a challenge, and I must compliment. I think some of the things which a company like Hero did, and Hero is Valerie's client. So what Hero has done is they started home delivery of motorcycles. Amazing thought process of making sure that you don't come to the studio, to the workshop, or dealer shop. You will get the motorcycle at home. Look at what Samsung has done. They've been able to. The staff has been able to sell mobile phones and through the network. What is company? My ex-company Coke. So I was speaking to KK, and he said, "Look, Deepak, the employees got the orders and made sure that the orders were delivered at home." Now, brands like Coke and Pepsi, 60 to 70% of the business is out of home consumption. Only 30 to 40% was And imagine all that business has been wiped out for 3 months. So brands will have to build bridges and the new connect. Will the life come back to normal? Yes, I'm a perfect believer of that. Uh, I'm an optimist, and as an optimist, I would say it will take a while, but life will become normal. But again, how should the brand communication be there? And my feeling is the brand which communicates with compassion will be a winner. Because in today's world, there are many, many stakeholders. You know, you are earlier sold to a category which you thought this is your medium. The last 3 months, we didn't get a newspaper at home. I just started subscribing to a printed copy of newspaper just 3 days back. I was getting an e-paper. When I got the paper today, there's not a single ad in the best paper of India. So imagine how volatile this market has become that today so many of our friends have lost their jobs in the print medium. Because there is no advertising revenue, there is no subscription. So there are going to be 2 or 3 mediums which will be very, very strong. It will be digital. People will go digital in communication. So as Valerie also said, digital will play a very, very critical role in the next 5 years. And that is, one is to be ready with the communication on digital. The second, of course, will be outdoors. They will bounce back. They've had a lull, but the outdoors will have to come back. And TV in India will continue to be a focus, but it will take a while because there will be a convergence of TV and digital and the print and digital. So these are some of my thoughts on how brands will play in the future. I could go on with different categories, but my sense is, as an optimist and as a supporter of self-reliance, India will shine back, but it will take time. And this disease is not going anywhere for at least 2 years. So first and foremost, my advice to communicators is bring the fear out of your mind, because if you don't bring the fear out of mind, you will never be able to communicate. Thank you.
Valerie?
Thanks. I think I agree with a lot of points that Deepak has made. I think brands will be challenged by, one is reorienting their purpose for why they actually exist. So if you don't find your purpose in this time, like Deepak said, 2 years, the virus is not going anywhere. People are going to be very cautious about the way they operate. He said fear is built in everybody's minds. How do you actually get people to come out of that fear? How do brands build that confidence in the minds of people? How do they rebuild their value in the person, in the customer's life, through communication which is more consistent and purposeful? And customers do, I mean, you don't take them for granted, but they do remember you and the problem you were able to solve when they were in their deepest. So like Deepak spoke about Amul, I think I totally agree. Amul has been the one brand which has been so visible. Amul, Dettol, all of these brands have played their part at this point in time to actually stand by, to showcase what their brand values are, the value system is, and that really is what will drive the future for brands in the country. I mean, everyone will want to look to see what is it that they're going to be more conscious about their spends. They're going to want to spend on things that are most valuable, because, like he said, people will lose their jobs. You will see a lot of cutting down on salaries, etc. So people will be cautious about what they spend on, and then therefore they'll spend on those brands that bring value back to their life, or are most relevant, or showcasing how they're most relevant to the needs in their life during this period of time. So building brand relevance, building purpose-led communication, and being able to break through the clutter on doing that is really what challenges brands will have to face. The second most important part is thinking language and thinking digital, because I think with a lot of hyper local led communication that will come up. Most brands think in English, max Hindi, but I think we'll have to go beyond that if you have to build that relevance and purpose, and do it over digital, because there's a lot more um, acceptance of brand communication. You've seen TikTok pick up those kind of forums, WhatsApp, TikTok, new apps, Arogya Setu, all of these are going to become very integral to our daily lives. And how do brands really learn to story tell differently than what they have been doing all these years, and rise up to the challenge that the environment is throwing back at them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us and helping us understand this very crucial role of PR and communications industry in shaping up a new self-reliant India. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, Deepak. Appreciate it. And thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next time.